it's Stephanie here from Oh You're Lovely, where we carry the largest selection of wood flowers in the United States. Today's tutorial is going to be a fun one. It's a second gift. 2 gifts this year. We're going to do another gift. We have done this project one other time. I'll share the link below because it wasn't actually here on YouTube, but we're going to do it with another twist. And it should be one of those like home decor pieces that you can use seasonally, but we're not going to make it super Christmassy. And it involves an ice skate. Alright you guys, welcome back to another tutorial. Yes, today we're going to work with an ice skate. Now I've done these a couple different times in different ways, and we're going to do another way to switch this up. This is going to be a gift for one of my lovely neighbors. And we're also going to work with blue flowers. I don't usually work with blue flowers, but we're going to do a couple little dye techniques as well, because we just worked on another project over on Facebook and it got asked quite a few times, how did I dye those flowers? So we're going to do that too. So we're going to have a couple tutorials within the tutorial. So I've got to stop talking and let's just jump right into it. Alright, so the supplies that you're going to need for this tutorial: an ice skate. I find these at the thrift store very often. This one, I usually go with white ice skates, but you can also do this with a black ice skate or brown or whatever color. You could paint these if you wanted even. We're gonna up the ante and not just put in an arrangement in here. So there is the skate. You can do a single or a double. I'm doing a single because that's what I like to do. The greenery that we're gonna work with, because we're working with a blue palette, my greenery's got kind of a blue flow to it. We've got, I think this is the boxwood. I'll list the ones that we have in the shop at ohyourlovely.com, but there's a hanging one. We're not going to use all of that, but I need this blue kind of color. This is a berry wheat, winter wheat, something. It's got some sparkle. The nice thing about the way that we're going to do this arrangement is if they don't want the sparkle, they can take it out and it's just fine. The rest, we've got some lambs here, and then the rest of it is stuff that's been in my stash, but all kind of similar color stories. So that blue kind of undertone color story we've got going. Then we're going to work with Sola flowers in a blue and cream storyline. We've got to get some more of these dark blue flowers, so we're going to dye some of those in just a minute. But for first, if I can talk, the secret ingredient for this particular tutorial is a temporary tattoo. So let's get started, and I'll show you what we're going to do with this little temporary tattoo. So I had no idea you could get temporary tattoos, like gorgeous, huge temporary tattoos from Amazon. I discovered that around the fall time. We put a whole bunch of temporary tattoos on pumpkins, both real and faux pumpkins, and now I'm hooked. So I have done this before. It works. It does take a little bit of time with the amount of water that you're going to put on there, because you've got to saturate that leather, and ice skate leather is a pretty tough leather. So we're gonna get a ton of water on here. Just tap is fine. I don't think it matters if it's warm or cool, to be completely honest. And we're gonna I'm gonna put my hand underneath there so I can kind of get a good placement on that. We'll start saturating this. And it might too depend. The last tattoo I used was a different brand, and this one's coming off a lot easier. So it just might depend on the brand too, as far as the amount of water that you're gonna need. And I'm gonna try not to scoot or move this too much. All right, yep, it's already starting to come off. Okay. Oh my God, I love this so much. It's so much fun. Do you not just want to do this to every single shoe you own? Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. So I'm just going to put this over real quick, and I'm going to kind of smooth out a little bit. So right before I finished the ice skate, my camera died. So I was just saying I'm going to let that dry, and while I let that dry, we're going to dye some flowers. So we're going to do that right now. The dye that we're going to be using, I've already created. The dark blue is Prussian blue from Americana, but then I added a little bit of black to it to darken it up. And here, I'll show you an example of why. This was the original flower that I dyed without the black, and then adding that little bit of black to the Prussian really starts to darken it up. So it's okay not to add it, but it does make a difference. And the lighter steel blue is Colonial Blue, also from Americana. So these have already been created. I did add a little bit of glycerin to each of them as well. And I store my paint often in these like plastic containers with a top on them. They'll last for a little while, and you'll know when they're not working anymore, when they start to smell a little funky. Let's just be honest. All right, so we're going to take this lovely Charleston, and we're gonna get our hands real dirty. So I'm gonna go in with my real dark navy kind of blue, this Prussian blue that's absolutely gorgeous. All right, and we're gonna really saturate this bad boy. Look at that. And I love these flowers opened up. So I'm gonna dump and move and all that jazz. We're getting real close and personal because my paint containers are very tall this time. Normally they're a lot shorter to the ground. Okay, so there's the flower, and this is really pretty as is, but I want to give it some extra dimension. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my paintbrush, and while it's still wet, I'm coming in with my Colonial Blue, and I'm going to bring it in on just onto the centers. And I'm not even going to really focus a lot on the center of the flower. That I actually want to keep more of my navy blue. But we're going to add more here, more here. And then when it dries, it actually fades a little bit. So it's not as much of a bam difference, but it adds just a little bit of a color shift to add some depth to that flower. So I'm gonna go back in. I've got a different brush for my darker blue. I'm gonna go back in and just touch up a little bit of the center, because again, I want that to be more of the dark blue, less of the Colonial. It's not a big deal, but we're gonna touch it up just a little bit, set that aside, and let that dry. I'm gonna get another piece of paper towel because my hands, I should have wore, for once in my life, I should have wore gloves, but my nails are already blue, so it all, it all goes together real well. It's fine, everything's fine. Now the other question I got asked, and I don't have the exact flower, and I'll link up, we did a birthday live using these flowers, and it turned out really, really pretty. But one of the flowers in particular gave this two-toned effect, and I got asked quite a few times, like, how did you do that? So I'm gonna show in two different color stories. So we're gonna grab a peony, and we've done this technique before, and then I'm just grabbing some paint on my paintbrush, and I'm going to, with my finger, pull back my petals, and I am working on the base of the flower. Just kind of scrubbing it on with paint. Going around and around and around and around and around and around. And scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing. And then once my paintbrush is kind of dry with the paint, I'm gonna just start bringing that up from the original paint that I laid down. It's still wet enough that I can kind of pull it up. And if you guys have watched enough of my videos, I'm not aiming for perfection. So I get a little sloppy, I get a little messy sometimes. Sometimes petals get paint on them that wasn't expected, but it is what it is. So there is that, and then I'll go around and I'll keep going around in a circle. I'm not gonna focus on the center bud though. I'm just gonna do this next layer of petals. What was I gonna say? I have no idea. But we're just gonna do this next round. And you can go with a smaller paint, the smaller the flower, probably the smaller the paintbrush you want for this technique. I'm using a fairly large brush for the size of the flower, especially when we get into the center, but it's all right with me. And now we have this like beautiful two-tone effect. Let's do it again, but this time we're gonna do it with a rose, and we're gonna do the lighter color so you can see what that is. And then we might do just one other, like kind of spraying and let things like dip or like kind of fade into each other. Actually, I have an idea of what we can do for that, which flower. So again, go at the base, bring it up. Now I got some of it over on the, again, I got some of it on that petal, but what am I not like aiming for? Perfection. I'm okay with it kind of peeking in different spots. We're gonna just spritz this one. And I'm using a little bit of, it's a glycerin water mix. It's 1 part glycerin, 8 parts water. And I'm gonna use that to help me blend up the flower. So this is gonna cover the petals quite a bit more than the first one we did, where we just kind of brought it up, but we didn't get all the way up to the top. That kind of diffuses the color, lightens it up. We didn't use enough glycerin that it's really gonna misshape our rose petals, but sometimes when you get the roses wet in particular, they do start to uncurl. So if you don't want that to happen, test one out first so you can see what happens. It's kind of like a science experiment. All right, let's do one more. This time what we're gonna do is it's another Charleston, and I'm gonna pop it in my blue, the colonial blue. And these 3-inch Charlestons, when they get dip dyed and reshaped, they get huge. So they get real big. Ready? Hold on, I got so much extra paint. So what we're gonna do, so the last one we did the dark blue and then put the light blue right in the center. This time I'm gonna take and we're gonna put the dark blue on the edges of the petal. I'm just debating, do I want it to do on the center or do I wanna go on the outside? Let's try the center first and then we'll move on out if we want. So I'm just taking my paintbrush with a fair amount of paint, and while it's still really wet, I'm just dabbing it, and it almost creates this like marbling kind of vibe to it. And if I really want it to like activate and start moving, add a little bit more glycerin to it and it'll start fading that through. And I just realized I probably just got a whole bunch of blue on my dress. I get messy. This one's really bad, especially because of how deep the containers are that I'm putting my flowers in. I feel like it gets real messy real fast. If you don't want it to blend as much, wait till your first coat of paint, the base is closer to dried, and then you won't have all this, the wet paint on wet paint and them starting to like gravity and all that other fun stuff. I'm just gonna keep kind of going around on the edges of the petals. I am gonna spray down these to activate it, but I feel like I can get around all of these first before I have to just spray it. Spray it just to kind of fade. Just little spritzes. And then you can tip it back over in your container if you want. Oh my gosh, look at that mess I'm making. And it's pretty. And there we go. So we're gonna let these dry and then we'll get to making the arrangement in the ice skate. All right, flowers are dyed and dried and ready to go. There is that the lighter steel blue, then put in with the darker blue around the edge. See how much that diffuses? Same with there is the Prussian blue with the colonial blue in the center. Also started to kind of fade around. And then there's our two-tone flowers floating in there as well. All right, so we're gonna get to making the arrangement now. Again, we're working with blue, green kind of tones. This one in particular is a really long hanging piece. I'm really only gonna be focusing on the 3 stems right here out of there. The nice long guys, I'm gonna hold off even clipping those off, and we'll use those for another project, most likely some sort of wild bouquet, because I like the hang, but these will work just fine. This one actually might be too much of a hang. We'll find out. So let's get to making. I'll bring you down just a little bit and we'll start finishing this. I'm so excited for this, and it's not even the color story I like, but that's all right. It's not for me, so it doesn't matter. Right? There's been so much blue lately. I've been making so many things blue between Facebook and here. It's a little bit different for me. All right, so we're just gonna see our height, where we want this to go. I only have 2 of these lovely pieces of eucalyptus, but I really do want to use them, so I'll cut that one down a little bit shorter. If it wasn't an ice skate, it would be really cute as a spring arrangement too. All right, so that's where we're starting off at. Okay, so we want to have what I did was I did lace up my skate, and then I cut a hole in the back so that when it hangs, it's going to hang at an angle instead of hanging straight up if I would have like pulled it from there. So it's going to go at a little bit of an angle. So this is going to be taller, that's going to go down, but then we're going to swoop a little bit with some of this hanging greenery. So we're going to make it a little bit more wild, adding in that hanging greenery. Okay. Just debating how crazy we want to get that hanging. I feel good about that. All right, here's the real big guy. Let's see how much we can. I think we're gonna bring it closer to the front, kind of stand up, and then we're gonna scoot it to help the hang go through. So we've got a nice kind of flow going. Around a little bit, play around with it. Okay, so there we've got, just realized this came up, there we go, pull that up just a little bit. Okay, so there we go. And this hangs a little bit, so I'm gonna bring this down and kind of keep going with that flow. Now you wanna remember though, this is most likely gonna go up on a wall or a door, so we want to make the hanging pieces. We want to keep the back a little bit flush or flat, and all the rest of it's going to kind of go forward, so that we so we're not squishing anything. The recipient, if they decide they don't want any sparkle left in there, or if it looks too wintry for them, or like too Christmassy because it's got the sparkle, they could take this out. Because we're not gluing anything in place, we're just kind of randomly putting it in there. But I'm just gonna do 3 of them, just like I did with everything else. Now, the one thing I'm not super loving right now is this lamb's ear. The way that the leaves are in there. So I'm gonna switch them around, because right now it's the back side of them, and I'm not loving it all that much, but where it's at, there's a lot of flowers that'll go right in that spot. So I switched that out just a little bit. There we go. How pretty would this just be as is? Just look. Beautiful. Over the top, like I normally do. All right. So for the flowers, we've got the blues, the creams, and then I also grabbed a couple bark flowers as well to mix those all in there. I have a lot more of the steel blue than the dark blue, so I want to give one of these beautiful dark blues kind of the center stage there. I don't think I'm gonna use this guy. He's just so big. He's lovely and gorgeous and wonderful, but he's rather large. A lot of the flowers, now this one in particular, I just put in straight on top, but a lot of them I'm going to be bending the wire so that they're forward facing, since again we're kind of going to go on the overflow on this, and especially on a flower like that, you really want that little bit of detail to kind of peek through and not be upright, because otherwise you're not going to see all that detail you just worked on. So I'm going to do that. Once we start going with flowers, it does start to run out of room, so it gets to be a little bit more pushing and wiggling and getting them all in there, but they do eventually get in there, so. I'm gonna put it on the door, step away, like step back a little bit, look at it, see if there's anything that needs to change. But boy, oh boy, this she be over the top, but like in the best possible way. All right guys, so I did make a couple of changes once I put it up on the door. I did not like, what did I not like? I did not like the placement of the wheat berry, winter berry, something wheat, something sparkly, I'll link it. So I added a little bit here, put some in the back, and rearranged and kind of adjusted some of the flowers in the front because I just wasn't loving how much there was this big kind of amount of that. I wanted it to be an accent, not like the focal point. So I moved the stuff around, feel much better about that. I'm liking the hang. It's wintry, but like not over the top Christmas, so she can have it all season long, and then once you no longer need to ice skate, which in Wisconsin is like April, she can take it down and then move to her spring decor. So hoping she loves it. I'll let you know, or not, I don't know. She'll let me know if she don't like it. But again, temporary tattoos. Who would have thunk it? I'm about to, you guys, this year is all about the temporary tattoo. I can already call it. Like, I'm gonna figure out every single project for every single season that we can put a temporary tattoo on something. It's just gonna happen. If you guys are loving these tutorials, can't get enough, wanna know when the next one goes live, make sure to subscribe and ring that bell. And to find out about the 150 style Sola flowers along with craft supplies and greenery, go to ohyourlovely.com. That's not all. If you're new around here and want to give those flowers out a try, or the greenery, all of that stuff, everything I just mentioned, use the code YouTube30. Wait, you couldn't see my hands. YouTube30 to get 30% off your first order. And yeah, I said the subscribe, I said the ring the bell, I talked about the code. I think I got all of the things that I'm supposed to say, and I should know, and I don't even know why I'm telling you this, but yeah, I think we got it all. So, good chance we will not be doing a tutorial for the last week of December 2020. You guys, we made it through 2020. Fingers crossed. I hope I just didn't jinx us. We made it through 2020. I will see you in 2021. So stinking excited for all of the tutorials that we have coming up ahead. And as always, if there's something that you would love to see that you don't see in the catalog of what is almost now 100 tutorial videos, just pop them in the comments nicely, but just give me a suggestion of what you would love to see, and I will make sure that we can do that. And if I already have a video, I'll make sure to comment with a link so you can see it and you don't have to wait till, you know, whenever I get the next one done. So have a lovely day. Thank you so much for joining. Yay! We ended the year with an over-the-top ice skate. This is Stephanie from Oh You're Lovely, and you, my friends, are absolutely lovely. Bye guys!